Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's William Bellamy. I'm back. It's November 15th, and we're going to talk about some current stuff in the news, like the internal strife in the Democratic Party, what's going on with the election, and what happened at the Department of Defense. Now, like always, if you like what I have to say, like, subscribe, make a comment, share it with your friends. If you dislike, say what you disagree with down in the comments. We'll get together, we'll have a civil debate about it. We can do it live on here so that everybody can see it, to see that I'm not scared of hearing new ideas, because you may change my mind, but I may change yours. Now, with that being said, the Democratic Party. They seem to be at each other's throats about exactly what they stand for. Now, what I mean by that is you have moderate Democrats who don't believe in defund the police. Joe Manchin's a good example. In fact, there's a tweet about defunding the police, and his answer was defund my butt. But I think the biggest part is the great majority of the Democratic Party are not socialist. It's a small majority, but it's a very vocal majority. The problem is the majority of Democratic voters are not socialist and don't want to espouse those ideas. So I don't know what it's going to take the party to. I think what it may bring up as a benefit to the American people is moderate Democrats now, with a larger minority of Republicans, if they vote out Nancy Pelosi when it comes time to vote for a new speaker, a moderate Democrat may be able to rely on some Republican support. By the same token, some of these ideas the moderate Democrats have, they may be able to rely on Republican support, which would be a good thing because Congress can actually start working like it's supposed to. Because that's the only way it's going to work, is if they work together. Now, with that being said, with the election, it's still up in the air. It's election day plus 13 or 14 or 12. And we still, in a lot of ways, have no clear answer. If we go by what's it right now and nothing else changes, Joe Biden is the president-elect, and that's what it'll be. On the other hand, President Trump has had one victory in the lawsuits he's filed in Pennsylvania. And I know that doesn't seem like much, but you also have people like the esteemed law professor Alan Dershowitz saying there's a chance he could actually pull this off. Because the ultimate goal isn't to, it's not even to get votes thrown out, because he's tweeting and he's on doing interviews and he's talking about fraud. What's actually been filed are mistakes in the system with how they process votes or how they took mail-in ballots. So it's watch this hand while the other hand's doing this, is what I think. I think the goal is to tie up votes in enough states so that they cannot certify that it becomes a contingent election, which is where the House of Representatives, each state contingent, will have one delegate to vote, which will be, as with everything else in 2020, we will be testing our system to the limit. And maybe in some ways that's not a bad thing. Maybe it's time we actually test that and see where it goes. Maybe we identify which of these allegations are true and we can fix our system before we vote again in 2022. With that being said, let's move to the Department of Defense. Now, I linked two articles and a third, which is an oath that every federal employee takes and every federal employee is supposed to be held to. With that being said, the first article is from NPR. It talks about President Trump ripping out the leadership of the Pentagon so he could put loyalists into those positions. The second is an interview with Jim Jeffrey, who's the former U.S. envoy to Syria. And what Jim Jeffrey talks about in that interview is how they played a shell game, lying to the president about the number of troops in Syria so that we wouldn't pull out. That was supported by the Secretary of Defense. I suspect, I don't know for sure, that there were decisions made based on policy recommendations and intelligence assessments from the Undersecretary for Policy and the Undersecretary for Intelligence, which is why one resigned and one was fired. Now, as a soldier, I swore an oath. And I never questioned civilian leadership over the military. I didn't. It's the way it's always been. It does make sense. I see no reason to change it. But that civilian leadership is responsible to lead, supervise, and safeguard American sailors, soldiers, airmen, and Marines. They're also responsible to be honest and follow the guidance of the sitting president. They failed to do both because they lied. And if they lied, they deserve to be removed. Even if you don't agree with the choices of who the president has put in those positions, the people that were in them lied to the president. And in turn, the American people were told that lie. And in turn, soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines were placed in harm's way on a lie. Not on facts, not on legitimate assessments, on a lie. So they deserve to be gone. Regardless of how you feel about the president, the people appointed to those positions are there to tell the truth. They're there with a job to do. It's not to lie and push an agenda that's completely opposite to what the president, who was in charge of them, wanted them to do. Since he campaigned, President Trump has put the effort forth to, at minimum, reduce the number of troops in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria. At best, he would like to pull all of them out. As a veteran who's seen all of those places and spent quite a bit of time in a couple of them, I'm torn with what he wants to do. But he's still the president. He looks at those intelligence assessments. He looks at what he thinks is best for the country. And as you'll hear me say in a video I am about to post about Afghanistan, we've given them all the tools. At what point do we back up and let them decide their own future? So, you lie to the president and you get fired in the end. And that's the right answer. But the links to both the articles, one is NPR that talks about how you remove them to put loyalists in place. The next is the interview with Jim Jeffrey. The third is actually a copy where they have the oath that all federal employees take. So if nothing else, take a look at that one and see anywhere it says in there that you're allowed to lie to the president. Now, with that being said, if you like what I have to say, like, subscribe, share with your friends, make a comment. The video I did on socialism actually had some of the best comments of any of the videos I've posted, and it was really nice to interact with everybody on there and hear them interact with each other and debate each other. So please, that's what I would like to get going with this. I would like people to use this to question stuff and think and maybe look at things from a different way. But as always, like, subscribe, share with your friends, hit the notification bell. My Patreon is on there if you feel the need to support the socialist revolution. No, I'm just kidding. If you see my video on socialism, you know how I feel about that. If you disagree, hit dislike, tell me why in the comments, and we can have a civil debate about what you disagree with. Other than that, thanks. You guys are great. The channel's growing, actually faster than I expected, which is really cool. But help it grow even more. Share it with your friends. All right, everybody have a good evening.